Again, my name is Fidelia AJ Sebastian. I'm really glad to take on this today. If you didn't understand anything Uche said about what I do, it basically means I help business leaders translate their business priorities, so whatever goals they have, I make it into HR strategies that include recruiting the right people, grooming them to be the best employee they can be, and also helping individuals on their career path. So it's either you found one and you want to move on to the next level. How do you position yourself to be that best candidate, more so in these times that we find ourselves? And also helping other individuals who haven't gotten the job or who haven't ever gotten a call. You've sent out resumes and nothing, radio silence. So helping you break through that barrier and helping you move on to the next level and getting that career of choice or that your dream job. So I will get right into it. And just to go over it again, if you have any questions at all, please indicate in the chat box and we'll get to it at the end of the presentation. Okay. So the first point I want to harp on is for you to refresh your resume. Now, I'm sure everyone is tired of having to hear that from recruiters, from everybody, and they're tired of looking at you. You are basically tired of looking at your resume. I get tired too. That's the honest truth, and it's a lot of work. So if you find refreshing your resume very simple, it's something you do in 5 minutes, then you're not doing it right, if I'm being honest with you. Because one of the key steps you need to take is conduct a review of your resume against the relevant positions you're looking for. So now, when we're thinking of relevant positions, say for instance, you want to be a project manager. If you go into LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, these are the top 3 I use. Type in project manager and see what comes up, the job descriptions, and read through the job descriptions, because a lot of times you find that you're doing a role so well, you're doing so much within the role, that if someone should ask you, your friend should ask you, what do you do in your day-to-day job? You're not really able to put that into words. You know exactly what you're doing and you're good at it, but words fail you to be able to communicate that to someone else who isn't really versed in your profession or doesn't really know what you do. That's where the job descriptions come in, because recruiters, hiring managers have taken their time to be able to put these things into words, phrase it in such a way that it's amazing. Even when you read it yourself, you feel very important. Like, yes, I do this, right? So when you go through the job descriptions, you can borrow a line or two, rephrase it however you want, or just pick and drop into your resume so it sounds more professional, as opposed to, for instance, I'm an HR professional and I put, I conduct recruitment. That doesn't say anything to a hiring manager that knows about recruitment. To somebody else that doesn't, yes, it's explanatory. Oh yeah, you hire people and all of that. No, there's a lot involved. So if I phrase it differently and say, I'm able to get the best talents, provide job analysis, and also create a platform where we get the best employees for organizations. If I phrase it differently, any other way, it sounds more professional. It sounds different. Yes, it might sound like you're just creating words, but it's important. Another thing you need to look at is reviewing your resume against what recruiters and hiring managers are looking for.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think, can you just share your presentation? I don't think everyone's seeing your presentation.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let's see if I can. So, share screen. Okay.
Perfect.
Are you good now?
Yes, we can see it now.
Great. All right. Thank you. So the next point I was going to go into is, if you've done the research, you've gone through Glassdoor, Indeed, everything else, checked through resumes, how do you narrow it down? The location. If you're looking for a job in Canada, if you're looking for a job in the UK, if you're looking for a job in North America, narrow it down to that search profile. What are they looking for? For instance, in some industries within the UK right now, when you see a project manager role, they're looking for people with business analysis experience or a CBAP certification. In some others, they're looking for PMP. So when you narrow that down, you see exactly what are they looking for, what are the hiring managers looking for that I don't have or that I do have, and I'm not even indicating in my resume because I don't think it's important. So that helps you narrow down what you're looking for. Another good way is for you to go into monster.com. They have a very detailed resume critique checklist where you can go over exactly what you're missing in your resume or not. Now, from my experience, I can tell you, as much as when you go to recruitment agencies, they tell you, use the Canada template, the standard template, use the UK standard template, use the North American standard template, depending on where you are and what job you're applying for. That's all well and good. But the truth is hiring managers are looking for content. I can tell you from experience, I have reviewed lots of resumes that the templates vary. But what I'm reading, I'm not really reading how they phrased it or they put it together or what comes first or what comes last. I'm looking for experience. I want to be able to, at first glance, find what exactly I'm looking for. For instance, if for some reason, life perhaps you're currently in a transitioning role or a survival job, and maybe you were a project manager for 3 years ago. So currently you're working in DHL as a delivery service person. That doesn't need to ruin your chances. Now, if you present your resume in the format, in the standard format as they put it, if you present your resume in that format, you're putting your most recent experience first. And then you put the project manager. I will tell you already that creates a bias. I'm looking at it as a recruiter or a hiring manager, and I'm seeing delivery service person. Okay, and I see project manager. The questions that go in my head is, you've been out of this role for 3 years. Would you still be conversant with what's applicable today? Are you behind? Are you keeping up? So all of that has already created a bias. I move on to the next candidate. I have not tossed you aside because I know you have the experience from previous years, but I've moved on to other candidates. And if I find other candidates who catch my attention more, I'm not going to come back to you, right? But if you put your most relevant experience, which is the project manager role, and then you put the DHL probably afterwards or whatever, I'm very focused on, wow, this person has exactly what I need. Before I realize that that's not even your most recent job, but that has already piqued my interest. And I want to talk to you to find out if you have been keeping abreast of recent changes and recent developments within that space. So it's very important to keep your resume relevant. If it's not relevant, if it's just you're so focused on templating, you might miss out on opportunities. Another point is for you to practice interview Q&As. I can't overemphasize how important this is because I have, in my own experience, had several interviews where my mind's blocked. Like they ask me a question and I honestly can't remember an answer. It doesn't just come to me. It's not because I don't know the answer, but because I did not practice enough. I have only crammed answers last minute or a day before the interview, and based on nerves or whatever, the answer flew right out. Or if I don't rehash, say it exactly how I crammed it, I've missed a line or two. That's all. Like I'm just off. However, if you practice so often, regardless of how many questions they ask you or how they ask the questions, because you practice it in your own words, you phrased, rephrased, and thought about it in your own words, it's always easier to bounce back. If you have, brain freeze at any point during the interview, you come back because it's something that you know. So it just comes to you naturally when you're there. More so now that we use a lot of behavioral-based questions and you are asked to give examples. To be able to give examples on the spot, if you haven't practiced, it's really hard. And sometimes you just blab and go on and go on and go on. But there's an approach to it. You need to give the situation, the task, the actions you do, and the result. So if you're thinking in that way, it's easier for you to just flow. And one way you know if you've caught the interviewer's attention is when you're speaking and they're asking you more questions. Not questions to catch you in a lie or to see whether you know exactly what you're saying, but questions to understand, questions of interest. Because they're just so like, this is the great candidate. This is what you can almost tell this is what they're looking for, but they want to be sure that you can just hit the ground running. And that is because it's the answers come to you naturally. One easy way to do that is review common interview questions on Google. Google is my best friend. I type in any role I'm looking at, I type in the common interview questions and answers. and you see tons of interview questions and different ways people have answered it. It doesn't necessarily mean what you find on Google is the right answer, but it gives you a guide on how you want to answer it based on your own experience. Another way is looking at YouTube videos. I would highly recommend Denise Patel, most especially for the question where they ask, tell me about yourself. That is a question I have always struggled with because, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to tell them about my full experience. You're talking through it, but you realize they have my resume. How much am I really speaking? And then you're looking at their faces and you're thinking, okay, they're bored. I should stop now. So you don't know how to start. You don't know how to finish. And you just finished rambling on and you haven't shared anything interesting that has caught the interviewer's attention. Researching on YouTube, seeing how different people have answered it, framing it in your own words based on your own experience helps a whole lot. And again, practice. Because once you practice so often, whenever you're getting called into an interview for a job you want, or even if it's just a promotion, either way, most especially in the West, there's no system of promotion here. It is either somebody retires, wins the lottery, or something, moves on to another job before you get that next role. And you want to be prepared. You don't want to have worked for 5 or so years for one position that you've had your eye on and then to miss it because you weren't prepared. They know you can do the job, but you didn't really showcase that and another candidate came and took it right from under you. So you don't want that to happen. So the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Another point we're going to focus on is practice video interviews. So right now with COVID and everything going on, when everything ends, the new normal is going to be video interviews. It's not new per se because most multinationals, this is how they conduct interviews already. This is how they screen. And for me, this is not my favorite way at all. I do not like video interviews, more so the ones that are pre-recorded where they already list out questions and you answer. I just feel like I'm talking to myself, but I don't really know if I know what I'm saying, right? And then you're just there, you record, you send it, and nothing. You get nothing back. So you're not even sure if you did right or wrong. When it's easier, when you're doing video interviews or Skype interviews with people, it's easier because you can see their expressions. You can know if you're going off on a tangent and you should redirect, or they stop you midway and ask you more questions. Video interviews, the standard ones they do to shortlist right now, nobody else is asking any questions. You have one shot at it. So why don't you make the best out of that one shot? Practice. Go through your video interviews, record yourself doing the interview. So you know how your voice sounds, the intonation of your voice, up, down, how you're moving, exactly how your facial expressions are. Because one key point I've learned is when you're doing video interviews, look into the camera, don't look at the screen. You prefer to look at the screen because it's easier. You want to see yourself, you want to see your face, you want to see how you're expressing yourself. But the best way is to look into the camera because that way it almost communicates as if you're looking to the person's eyes and you're focused on what you're saying and not yourself, or you get distracted with your blouse or something else. So you need to record yourself and see how you look on camera so you are projecting the right image. You can also check out Indeed, their video interview guide tips that you can learn from, and practice again. Practice as often as you can. Just randomly, just practice and see that you're getting better. Because this is going to be a new normal and you don't want to be caught unawares. Given the rate of unemployment currently all around the world, you don't want to still fall within that bracket when things pick up. You want to be the first that gets called. So you need to do all these things to put yourself ahead. The next point we're going to talk about is updating your essential skills. Now, when I talk about this, I'm not focusing on doing courses, getting a master's degree or whatever, or whatnot. No, not necessarily. It depends on what exactly your goal is and what you want to get. What is most important is when you have reviewed the job postings for your location or for that dream job you're looking at, you need to pay attention to the skills that are required and what you don't have. So as I use the example of the project manager, most of these roles, you just put the CBAP as an asset. So right now it's a nice to have. Guess what? There are many people that don't think it's a nice to have that are going after it. So soon it's going to be a must have, and those people are going to have an edge over you. So if that is the next step, do it. If it's the case that you have the certifications, you already had them, but you're not in that role right now, so you're in a transition job and you're not able to practice what that field or that career path that you have been working towards. Another thing you can do is within your organization, find someone else who, so maybe if you're the delivery person within the DHL, as in the example I gave, find the project manager within there and see if you can spend some time with him on your own dime and just see what exactly he's working on and learn from him. Or even ask. Sometimes you'll be surprised. You can ask for, you say you have this experience and you would just like to volunteer your time to support your project. That is a priceless experience you're getting. And guess what? When they post a job role, regardless of how long you've been in the company, because you have shown that initiative, you'll be the preferred candidate for the hiring manager. So it's little things like that. And you're just checking, comparing what other people as well on LinkedIn in that profession, what are the qualifications they are getting? What do their roles say? Because sometimes when you review a job description of that role that you want, it just sounds so technical. You're like, no, I don't think I've done any of this. But it's just technical jargon if you check. If you speak with someone who currently does the job and they explain it to you, you might find that it's what I do every day, but it's just phrased differently. And so you short sell yourself because you don't understand it. So you need to find a way to understand it, which is renewing your LinkedIn connections, networking, finding out people that are doing exactly what you're doing or working in that dream company. What can you learn from them to be ready when that position presents itself? And if they are missing skills, you can also go to Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, Udemy. They offer free courses as well. So if it's a case of I want to go down that project manager route or business analysis route or accounting route, and I don't really have anything to show for it, why don't you go there and do some courses so you have basic knowledge of what is going on before you go and practice. Another way you can even do it is there's lots of startups, lots of volunteer organizations that you can volunteer your services and your time to just keep abreast of what is going on. And that will help your resume, because if that delivery person, that is their current experience where they are getting paid, but their volunteer experience that they can show in a startup organization or in another organization where they volunteer their services, they are currently practicing as a project manager. That honestly, for a lot of hiring managers, that trumps being paid. That even shows a lot of initiative, that shows leadership, that shows focus, and that makes that person a preferred candidate. So you need to step up and do something different and not sit down and say, well, this is my lot. I'm doing a survival job for now. I'm never going to get back into a career path. What you need to start thinking, what am I doing now that I can do differently to be ready for that next position when it presents itself? Another thing we can talk about is getting the relevant certification, as I've earlier mentioned. If you don't have it, if it's a nice to have, when you're researching jobs, right now it's a nice to have. Believe me, in a couple of years, it's going to be a must have. So it's something you should be working on, getting those certifications. And the final point I'm going to speak on is revisiting your why. Now, I can tell you from experience, this helps you through a lot, from terrible bosses to getting survival jobs to that next level job to everything. Knowing why you're doing what you're doing helps. So from my experience, I'll give you my example. I have a degree in accounting. Worked in a bank for 18 months. Was okay with it. It wasn't anything exciting, but just okay with it. And then something happened. They let go of some people. And why did they let go of them? Because their manager said they were not performing based on a performance rating, not really based on how well they could do the job. And everybody had, something to say, even including I. But then I thought to myself, why complain? Why not be the change I wish to see? So then I went for my master's degree in HR. And during that, everybody tells you, when you get the master's degree, you're hoping you get a graduate training program. Well, if you don't, what then happens? What do you do next? So I started thinking, how do I become that best HR professional and do better? One key thing that came to mind is customer service. Okay, so how do I become customer? Yes, I've learned customer service in the bank. What's different? What am I going to do differently? And I thought to myself, well, in the bank, it's their money, you're giving it to them. There's a different level of service. So then I joined Asda Walmart, and then that kind of service is they're paying for a product that you're offering. So you depend largely on them. And then you have teenagers who have, no form of ID, wanting to buy alcohol, and you're supposed to be able to tell them you cannot without causing a scene in the store. So learning how to communicate that and, dealing with conflict as well. And then I moved on to working in H&M. And what did I learn there? I had realized a long time ago that I wanted to be an international HR professional, not just local. And I knew to be able to do that, I would need to be able to communicate professionally and clearly with emails, phone calls, and get my message across. So that was where I learned that skill. That was where I started managing people. That was where I started coaching people. That's where I started training. That's where I started leading assessment centers. So you need to find your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Because it's going to keep pushing you on and it's going to help you draw a path. I wrote here, people with clear written goals accomplish far more in a shorter period of time than people without them could ever imagine. And that has been my story. If I continue, I can tell you the full spectrum of my career, and it has been successful. I've gotten into great multinational organizations. I've worked in different countries, supported leaders from different countries and different regions. But that has been made possible not just by sitting down and hoping for the best, but by doing all of this. So I'm basically sharing with you not just tips from an HR professional who has worked with leaders, but I'm sharing tips with you that I have used in my professional career as well that have helped me. And James says in the Bible, faith without works is dead. Show me your faith without your works, and I'll show you my faith by my works. And that has been my story. So yes, there is a large role my faith has to play in all of this, but there is also a significant role doing all of this, taking all these steps I've had to play. Again, to go over the points I mentioned, refresh your resume, practice interview Q&As, practice video interviews, update your essential skills, and revisit your why. Why that career path? Why that field? Even if it's just you want to make more money, how do you want to do that? Because every single career makes money. You can find, if you name a career, I can show you 10 people that make billions out of it. So it's not necessarily picking a job that makes money, but what is that thing that you want to do? Because when you retire or when you go out of regular employment, what's that thing that you want to keep doing? What keeps you up at night when you think about retirement? What do you want to do differently? So this is where you start. Find your why and revisit it often. Thank you so much. That will be the end of my presentation. And I think I will pass it over to the chat manager now.
Thank you very much, Fidelia. That was very insightful and informative. Thank you for sharing with us. It's nice to have someone on the other side letting us know what we should do. And of course, this is very, very, very apt for the current times. There are a lot of people looking for new opportunities or career transitions. Just to highlight, if you want to speak to Fidelia or want to connect with her independently, she's provided her email address is currently on the screen. Please do not hesitate to shoot her an email. Once again, to remind everyone, if you have any questions, please indicate in the chat and we can present it to Fidelia. We'll now be moving over to the Q&A session. So Fidelia, I have one question here. It says, what would be your advice for a professional who has been unable to get a dream role after 2 years, even with help or mentorship?
My advice is there's lots you need to do to get ready for that. So I would have a long list of things. So I'll probably prefer you send me an email and then I can go over some things you can start doing with you.
Okay, excellent. I actually have a question for myself. You talk about updating our resume. The question is, being an HR professional, and we hear a lot for people who apply, we say, oh, HR professional, you do a quick scan, it's like 5 seconds or less. So when you do a quick scan of a resume, what are the things that you're looking for that we can put in there that will catch your attention and ensure that you're picking our resume for the interview?
Quick scan is, first, I'm checking for the title I posted to see if you have that title in your resume. And then I'm quickly scanning through your responsibilities to see, well, if what you don't have that title based on, the organization you've worked in, they call it different things. What are the things you're doing that my hiring manager wants Do you have those skills? Are you able to deliver on them? Another thing I forgot to mention, I think will go a long way, is when you look at resumes and recruiters tell you, put your achievements. Some people that have worked in several organizations or different roles, you can't really compress your achievements and everything into a 2 to 3 page resume. So another way you can do that differently is, instead of listing out to me, um, I recruit for business leaders, I manage employee relations. If you put it that way, you're not really telling what you do. You can phrase that differently to tell me what you have achieved in doing that. So if you tell me I manage employee relations with an example of a conflict on health and safety issues, you're giving me more. You've not told me the full story, but you're giving me enough that I'm interested. I want you to tell me the story of that health and safety issue that you managed, that was an employee relations issue. So that already piques my interest. We want to phone screen you to ask you more questions.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have questions, lots of questions rolling in. So one question, which is very apt, is what would your advice be to people who lose their job during this period with all the uncertainty? What would be your advice to them?
Basically, the 5 tips I've just shared. That is my advice to you. Start doing that, because you can't just rest on your oars. Start checking your resume to see, what skill set don't you have, what do you have currently. Even people that are currently in jobs right now, there is no guarantee, because the way of work is going to change. So there are some jobs that, you've always been in comfortable, that are going to change. The way they do them, they might not really need you anymore. They might need less people. So you need to remain relevant. You need to pay attention to what's going on around you. What are the skill sets that they're looking for? When they present projects and all of that, what are those key things that they're always asking for? Who are the key people they're asking for? What do I need to add to what I do? So for instance, as an HR professional, paying attention to my environment to understand exactly what's going on. Change management is big. We're constantly going to change. And we've always managed change management as something on the side of our desk. Now it's forefront in every organization. So I can't sit back and say, yes, I'm HR, I know everything about HR. Now I've gone into change management and I'm understanding change management. I'm project managing as well. So you need to always step up. You can't just remain comfortable in, I know this. This is what the job description is asking for. What is that extra that is going to set you apart? That's what you're looking for now.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Essentially, you're saying we should all stay ready. Whether you have a job or not, just stay ready. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. We have a question here. It's a long one. It says, what would you advise people to do? Or what would you advise someone to leave a senior role in a profession that they're not particularly passionate about to enter an entry-level role in their dream industry?
Well, that I will give you HR professional advice, and I'll give you my advice.
Okay.
HR professional advice is, just keep at it and see what extra skills you can add on to get the role you're passionate about. Because, okay, so for instance, I had someone who was an accountant in our organization, had no passion for it whatsoever, but just kept doing it. I wanted to move on to another role. So what the person did, the person wanted to move on to a role in operations. So this was at the Calgary Airport Authority. Wanted to move on to another role in operations. So what the person started doing was getting involved in projects that included operations, learning about it, showing that interest. So when a position came up in operations that was at par with their level, they were able to speak to that role. And because most organizations, I can tell you, in senior roles, they're not really looking for your technical expertise. They're looking for leadership qualities. So because this person was able to translate, so I know, the basics of the technicalities of operations, I'm able to explain some things, I'm able to do some things because I have taken time to learn. The person was able to show that aspect, but because the person was able to show leadership qualities as well in their current role, it was a no-brainer. It was, we hire for attitude, train for skill. So it was easy to train. So you were able to get, the same grade or the same level within that role. That's the HR professional advice. AJ's advice, in this kind of things, I take risk. If I'm not passionate about something, I move on. As I said, I was working in the bank. And you know how in Nigerian banks, how the promotion level goes. You're able to get promoted and all of that. I was doing well. I was fine. But I wasn't passionate about what I was doing. Because when the whole incident happened that I found my passion. And I would also probably say that part of that was because, I had a brother-in-law who was working then in a hospital where they weren't paying much. And he had colleagues who were medical doctors in Nigeria that moved on to banking and told him, bro, you better move on. This life is not working for you. They're not paying you well. But the passion he came with home every single day, regardless of how much he was paid, drove me into starting out a career in HR without having any background in it. So I was able to do that. So I feel like anyone, if you're passionate about something, your passion will sell. It might take time. And for some people, it might be short. But if you set yourself apart by doing all these things and, finding that extra step that sets you apart from everybody else, in no time, you'll be at par with where you were coming from.
Okay, thank you very much. So just to push this any further, would you say that passionate is a key ingredient for success? Is something that you...
I would say so. I would say so. It always comes off. It always comes off.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I have a question that you kind of touched on during your presentation. It's a question about how to answer the question of tell me about yourself. I know you said there's a video you highlighted, but the question here was, if you could just give a quick summary, the best structure to answer the question, tell me about yourself.
Okay, best structure is a summary of what your beliefs are, so your values. So if you say, I'm a passionate individual that believes in integrity and this. So you're talking first of all about your values, a summary of what you can deliver. Because when they tell you to tell them about yourself, they don't really care about you and your life history. They are looking for, it's an introduction to who you are and what you have to offer. So when you're talking about what you have to be able to summarize what you have to offer and also what drew you to that role. Because, you need to be able to bring them from looking at your resume and seeing your current job. Because the next question is, why are you leaving your current role? You can answer that question in telling them about yourself. What piqued your interest in their role, and how from your current role you are able to deliver on that role. So when you summarize all this and say, it's like, okay, I'm interested. Let's go on. Let's talk about the next point. But if you lose them in that first question, it's harder to get the interviewers going in the remaining questions. Regardless of how technical you are, it's really hard to pick that interest again.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And we'll also watch the video that you recommended to us. Another question that you touched on a bit during your presentation, the question was about providing some tools or websites that can help us to improve our skills. You touched on a few. Are there any others you'd like to highlight?
I think the best I can highlight is Google. Everything I find, honestly, I type it on Google and click until I find something that resonates with me. If it's YouTube, I am very biased. I check on the ones that have the most views and I start with them before I go to people that have less views to see, okay, what are these people saying? Then I check the comments and see what other people have added on as, their own points of their experience.
All right, thank you very much. That is a good one here. Cover letters. How important are they, and what are your tips for crafting a good cover letter?
They are very important to some recruiters. So you have some recruiters that think they're important and some that is just words. They can't really be bothered by it. They really just want to move on. Now, one way to craft a good cover letter is same thing about it, telling me about yourself. I want to see what you can deliver. So when you start with thanking me for, reviewing your application or whatever that is, you're telling me also what experience you have, very briefly. And then you go into what some of your achievements are. Now, when you're highlighting your achievements, don't just go off on a tangent and highlight everything you've done or not done. I don't really care about it. Pick out, if you go through the job description and see exactly what we're looking for, pick out key achievements that easily tie into what I'm looking for in my job description. So for instance, if I say successfully completing a project, for the project manager role. When you're picking out your key achievements or you're putting in your cover letter, you have to tell me about a project you completed, some summary of the project you completed and how you did it. So that already tells me, okay, I'm looking for this. This person has already started the conversation by telling me exactly what he's done. So that makes me interested in calling you up and asking you more questions. So that's why I said it has to be short and sweet. You have to be able to capture my attention enough that I want to ask you more questions and give me enough that I'm interested. So it's a fine in between.
All right. So would you recommend we always include a cover letter just to be
As,
covered?
as often as possible, because there's a lot you can put in your resume that showcases you. So why not? If the recruiter doesn't review it, you're not at a loss. If they need to review it and you don't have one, you're at a loss. So
All right. Thank you very much. We'll take one last question and then we'll bring the Q&A session to an end. The question is, entry-level jobs are looking for 3 to 5 years. Are the hiring managers still looking at candidates who don't have that requirement?
to be honest with you, first thing we're looking for is I'll go straight to someone who has those requirements. But a lot of times, people that don't take their time to phrase their resumes properly, you might have the experience, but the way you crafted your resume does not interest me. It doesn't tell me anything. It just tells me you had the title, but I'm not really sure what you can deliver. So that already puts me off. So yes, I might put your resume aside as one that I might forward to the hiring manager. But guess what? If I have a couple of candidates like that, and I go through all the ones that claim to have those experiences, and I don't find anything that speaks to me, I will go through the other resumes that don't really have the experience and see if someone has done different things that has skills that can translate into this role we're looking for. As I said, the world of work is changing and it's no longer business as usual. Now, a lot of employers are not just looking for people that are good on paper. They're looking for attitude, they're looking for initiative, they're looking for other soft skills. So if I see that translating from other roles you have filled, and I feel like, okay, this will work in this role, there's a chance I will call you. There's a chance the hiring manager will want to speak to you. Because you need to remember, gone are the days when you hire for a role because this is what you need today. Organizations are now hiring for a role that they will need not just for today, but for the next 5 years. So they are checking surveys, they are checking trends, they are checking what is relevant. And you might have a more relevant skill than the other person who has rested on their hours and has believed they've arrived and they haven't done anything extra.
Excellent. So can we compensate for a lack of experience with other things? For instance, volunteering, extracurricular activities? Is that something that you would look at as an HR professional reviewing a resume?
Yes, and I would say volunteering experiences, but be focused on what you are volunteering for. So you can't tell me you want to be a business analyst and the volunteer experience tells me you sell food. It doesn't really tally. It doesn't add up for me. If I'm seeing a volunteer experience, I want to see how you did things. So for instance, if you say you want to be a project manager and your volunteering experience is taking care of different homes, managing the employees within the homes, managing volunteers, getting them together to do the writing or the assigned duties or things like that. That already tells me, okay, there's a transferable skill here. You are not doing the project management as we would traditionally call it, but you are doing it because you are the skill set I need for a project manager. You have it. You're managing people. You're leading people. You're able to organize. You're able to plan. Things like that. So if you're thinking of a volunteer experience, be more deliberate in your search and be more deliberate in what you're doing. Think of what is the role I'm targeting and how can this volunteer experience add to it. As I gave you my own example, customer service was key for me. And guess what? Right now in HR, everything everybody's talking about is, are you customer focused? It's one of the key things they're looking for right now. But I saw it ahead of time that is going to be key in being an excellent HR professional. So when I did my own, survival job or transitioning job, I was focused on those skill sets I could easily communicate as what could help in my current work.
Thank you very much. I think we'll bring the Q&A session to a close. We didn't get to all the questions, but thankfully, Fidelia provided us her email address. So if you'd like to connect with Fidelia, independently or directly, we'll definitely provide you her email address. Just indicate in the chat. Thank you very much, Fidelia. This was very insightful, very
Thank you.
informative. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.